Sacred geometry is the study of patterns. Everything in the world is based on a pattern. Any mastery of any topic, of any ability, any skill, is based on understanding and mastering a particular pattern. However, if we look at it only in an instrumental way, based on patterns, then we may lose what is the spiritual or sacred aspect of sacred geometry. And so, looking at it from a much deeper perspective, if sacred geometry is the study of all the patterns that make up everything in the physical world, where did this come from? And so then we have the idea that what sacred geometry at the highest level actually is the thought forms in the mind of God. That's exactly how it was understood in spiritual traditions all over the world. Sacred geometry is the thought forms in the mind of God, which are the creative language on which everything is based. Now, this is a divine language of consciousness and energy that creates specific grid patterns that are fundamental for creating the blueprint of all of creation. It is these energy and consciousness blueprints which will then crystallize and manifest into physical space as everything in the physical world. So behind everything in the physical world is an energy and consciousness blueprint, a grid pattern. And we can learn to read these divine patterns that are the blueprint of creation, the way that we would learn to read an earthly language. Every pattern in sacred geometry is a letter in a divine alphabet. Every pattern in sacred geometry is a force, it is a function, it is a particular divine essence, to manifest something from a higher level into physical reality. All of us are given the opportunity to incarnate into the physical world through the vehicle of our physical body, what in the Himalayan tradition is referred to in Sanskrit as the sheath made of food. Because we take in physical food, it creates the physical body, it dissolves upon death. But we are given that gift to manifest into the physical world through the physical body. But what is at the deeper level behind it is a body of energy and a body of consciousness and a spiritual body. So in sacred traditions all over the world, they understood that one of the highest levels of spiritual initiation is to understand the same divine language of sacred geometry that higher beings, angelic beings, use to create our physical bodies, our energy bodies, our consciousness bodies, and to manifest the physical earth itself and every activity in the physical world. So sacred geometry is really this divine blueprint. It really is a divine language, a sacred language that we can learn to read. And in time, we can learn the exact same patterns that higher beings use to create the world. And through that, we ourselves will become the next rank of creator beings. So in the deeper levels of the Masonic tradition and of the Rosicrucian tradition, they have something that they call the royal art. The royal art has tragically almost been forgotten today, but the royal art is something of tremendous significance. It's something that the great masons who built the cathedrals in Europe had in mind when they built the cathedrals as books written in stone, showing many secrets of sacred geometry within these patterns. What the royal art actually is training ourselves to know the patterns that all creation is based on, and then using that, we ourselves can become the creator beings for the next round of evolution. So that is the basic evolutionary process that is represented for us in a microcosmic way with the way that we are born as small, helpless infants. We have to be taken care of and raised, and we have to start learning how to use this physical vehicle in the physical world, what the rules are of this physical world, which are not always the same as the spiritual world we have come from. We have to take the draft of forgetfulness, where we forget who we are, why we came here, and what was the purpose and intention of the current incarnation. Every one of us goes through the hero's journey of remembering, who am I, why am I here? I found, unfortunately, in my sojourn on this earth in this lifetime, that many people are simply not fulfilling their karmic contract. What you in a higher state of consciousness chose to do when you incarnated this time. So to actually remember who we are and why we're here, and then to perform what it was that we chose to do in this incarnation, is something very, very significant. So there's a very practical level of sacred geometry in that it shows us the rules of how things are constructed in the physical world, if you're going to be a designer or an architect. But it also shows us how relationships are patterned. I'm sure all of us have had some relationships that didn't work out well, but from it you learn certain lessons, you learn certain patterns, you learn how to recognize in a person someone who may be a good partner or who may not be a good partner, but you didn't know the pattern beforehand, and through this often difficult experiences on the physical plane, you've learned to recognize that pattern and to be able to do it better the next time. Certain aspects of learning to use our mind power to go through the layers of anything in the physical world to examine its structure, to examine its essence. There's a hidden key to higher initiation, which is rarely spoken of today, and this is the art and science of structuring the human energy field. The human energy field has a series of patterns that are invisible, hidden inside of it. These are the patterns or the blueprint around which the flesh and bone crystallize to create the physical body. But we have within us particular structures that we've created through the activity of our mind, through the activity of our emotions, through the activity of our willpower. Everything that you think, everything that you feel, every action you take is a cause set in motion. It not only affects what in the Himalayas would be referred to as your karma, it actually constructs energy and consciousness patterns in your body of energy. So for example, if we think in terms of chakras, we know the basic model of the 7 chakras from the Indian tradition. We know the models of hundreds of different acupuncture points and the meridians that link them together into grid patterns in the human energy field from the Chinese Taoist tradition. Depending on how you use your mind and you use your emotions and how you use your will, you will start to activate some of these points of energy in your body, whether a larger chakra or a smaller acupuncture point. These are all places that we have inside of us that are a microcosm of all of the functions and the siddhas and the powers outside of us in the macrocosm. So one of the deep levels of initiation in classical traditions is to start to teach people what these patterns are in their own energy field, and then to start recognizing how the way that we're using our mind and our energy on a daily basis is creating certain stabilized structures in your energy body that may be serving you or may not be serving you. For example, in cancer research, it's well known that there are particular activities of our thoughts and our emotions that can create a cascade of stress in the body, and that can lead to particular inflammation, can lead to something that at the end of the cascade may become cancer or other problems. And on the other hand, through the use of our mind and our emotions and our willpower, we can create forces that are very beneficial, very life-giving.